Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to the podcast. I've got Nick Garofalo, and he is a financial thinker, planner, writer, reader, and we're going to talk all about what he does from with open-handed wealth and what he does. We'll talk about financial freedom, financial independence, business, and I'm really happy to have him on and discuss his business. Nick, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, Dr. Lewis. Great to be here.
Yeah. Briefly introduce yourself and what you do with open-handed wealth.
Yeah, so nice to meet you. To your audience, I'm Nick. So I'm a CFP candidate and proud founder, operator, head financial planner here at Open-Handed Wealth. So I help Christian small business owners stop feeling overwhelmed by financial chaos. Yes, it really is possible. And my goal is to show them how to simplify tax planning, streamline their cash flow in and out, hopefully to give themselves a raise and really to align their cash management of their business investments and then also their long-term investments with their faith and with what's truly most important to them. So by doing that, the goal is that they can focus back on what truly matters while keeping more of what they're earning, growing lasting wealth, and really leaving a legacy of generosity that will touch generations.
Interesting. And you have core pillars of open-handed wealth. And first thing is simplify tax planning, streamlining cash flow, giving yourself a raise, and aligning your investments with their faiths. And we'll talk about the first thing is with tax planning 2 weeks away. How do you help business owners and entrepreneurs simplify tax planning?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd say the first step towards simplifying something like tax planning is to not save it until you're 2 weeks away from the filing deadline, which for partnerships, it was actually March 15th. So for some of your listeners, it's probably already too late, but the goal is really to do it all year long. And so I recommend having quarterly meetings with your accountant or your CPA and make sure that your quarterly withholdings are on track, that your earnings projections are on track, that you're making sure to maximize deductions, that your retirement savings, if you have a qualified plan within your company, are on track for where you want them to be relative to your goals, which may make some of your listeners go, wait, what goals? Exactly. So that's really, before we even get to tax planning, we start with kind of a comprehensive overview of life and money and finance and where the money is coming in, where it's going out. And then from there, we can build out goals and align the business goals with the personal goals of the owner. And then tax planning is a kind of a tool in the tool belt that we'll pull out to make sure that piece of your business and financial life is in line. But yeah, so that's really the first thing is make sure that you don't just save it all till the deadline. That's it. That's 80% of the way there. If we could just take it little bites at a time.
Yeah. And what things do business owners do that complicate tax planning?
Oh man, the biggest and the toughest is mingling too many personal expenses into the business, which generally is not a horrible problem as long as you've got clear documentation, but nobody has clear documentation. Very few people. And so it's because it's a lot of work, and keeping your business separate from your personal expenses is really the first step toward helping to have cleaner numbers, cleaner books. And so you can do more precise and more accurate planning around things like taxes.
Interesting. What sort of software do you recommend business owners use to automate and keep track of expenses? I know some people use like Google spreadsheets.
Yeah, so that's a great point. There are so many great software options out there nowadays. It really can feel overwhelming to try to find one that really works for you and one that you can implement. Spreadsheets are not the worst. I'll just start there. It's better to have something than nothing. I really love, there are programs like You Need a Budget or Monarch Money for personal financial budgeting and planning and expense management. But when it comes to operating within your business, I really recommend taking whatever accounting reporting you have, whether that's QuickBooks or Xero or Peachtree or Intact or whatever your program is, pulling out and extracting like a detailed report of expenses is actually pretty easy from those platforms. And then you've got a full list of all the vendors you're paying and what you're paying them and what periodicity. And so it's maybe not a tracking system as much as it is extracting that reporting and extracting data from what you already have. But I like it. I like that approach because if you're just doing an expense audit once a quarter or once or twice a year, you don't need a whole separate system for tracking it. In fact, that just makes it more complicated because then you have another system to maintain. So I highly recommend stick with whatever your current accounting software is, because at the very least, every expense is going to be in there.
Yeah, interesting. And so what about when you talk about streamline cash flow, what can business owners do to streamline their cash flow?
Yeah. So I am a big fan of the Profit First system by Mike McCallowitz. Have you heard of it?
Yes, I've heard of it. Yes.
Yeah. And what I like about it is it's essentially 5 category budgeting for your business. And Dr. Lou, what makes it kind of the magic of it is that you pay yourself, you calculate out your different allocation percentages, right? So if you, let's say you're in a chiropractor practice, your profit margin based on Mike's math should probably be somewhere between 20 and 30, maybe 35%, depending on your revenue. Your expenses were probably 50 to 60%. And then you got taxes and emergency fund savings, stuff like that. And so what you're doing is you're just allocating all that money to 5 different accounts before you ever even spend it. I have a flow chart that I work through or I develop for each client anytime I'm building a proposal for this. And it's just a really simple way to see your money come in on the left and then go out on the right into 5 different buckets. And every time I show this to somebody, I get almost the same reaction, which is eyebrows go up and they say, wow, I really like this. And it's great because I never have to use the word budget, which usually increases blood pressure or gives people anxiety, makes them tears fill their eyes. And so if you don't have to use that word, it really kind of helps to break that ice and simplifies the flow of cash. So that's all we're trying to do is identify where it's coming in, where it's going, and then how it's going out if it has to, and on what frequency, right? So the tax account is categorized, it's sent there, and then it's put into a faraway bank account that you don't touch. And then every quarter, you just pay your quarterlies out of that. All of that for each of these accounts is illustrated in this really nice, tidy flow chart for clients to be able to see and visualize. So that's literally, it's a really nice little deliverable to hold and see, okay, this is how it's supposed to work.
Interesting. And how do you, and then when, what's interesting is you say, give yourself a raise. What is the easiest way for business owners to give themselves a raise with the profit versus?
Yeah. Great question. There's only 2 ways to make more money in business, right? You can either literally make more money in sales or cut expenses. That's it. And so we do both. And so typically when you're doing an expense audit, it's very easy to find 10% savings and expenses, which for a company making $1 million, a 10% reduction savings could be $50,000 to $80,000 a year. 10% is easy, 15% is tough, 20% is usually too deep. And so depending on where they're at and their sort of fluff in terms of how many extra expenses they have, I always recommend cutting too deep because you can add back later. Better to cut too deep and then realize, hey, actually that's important, we need to bring that back, than it is to be too conservative and leave stuff that you really don't need, that you think you do, that you don't know you can operate without. But hey, guess what? If you find $80,000 in your budget, that's a great, you throw half of that to a raise for yourself and then plan to put a little bit back to those expenses if you cut too deep, right? So that's the simple approach to giving yourself a raise.
Interesting. So then the next question I have for you is with this clients, how do you differentiate yourself from any other CFPs? What makes you different and why would clients work with you versus another one?
Yeah, gosh, there's so many ways I can answer that question, but I'll ask the same question of you, Dr. Lee. Like, why would someone reach out and work with you over anybody else? And it's because they like you, and maybe it's because they like the shirt you're wearing, or they like the style of your coaching, or the things that you've written, or the things you talk about. But there's something about you that they say, I really align with this guy, and I want to work with him. And so one of the things that I really love about the work that I do is I spent the first decade of my career working for my dad in a small family business. A portion of that time I actually spent working at another company. I was going to leave my dad's company. So I took a break. I went somewhere else and I worked in their small family business as a non-family member and saw what it was like to be a non-family member in a small family business. And then I came back to my dad's company and then he sold it. And I went into a corporate environment. We went public. I was doing corporate finance work. So I've had a pretty wide array of business experiences and I love small business. I love small business owners. I love the way they think and they're exciting and they're building stuff. And so many CFPs and investment-minded people are brilliant, wonderful people who have excellent skills, but don't have the real world small business experience that makes them relatable to the kinds of clients I want to help. And because I've been there, because I know what it's like, to sit there at 7 p.m. and still be answering work calls, or to be a parent who's never really able to turn it off on the weekend, and who stresses about money and maybe I see this a lot too with small business owners. The money stress can rob so much joy of life and take out that real passion for what got you into business in the first place. If I can step in and help alleviate that, I can give someone a piece of their heart and their life back and bring order to what feels chaotic to them so that they are now freed up to go and do what made them successful in the first place. One of my clients said it this way. I couldn't say it any better. He said, I didn't come into business to be a financial account minded analyst, planner, budget investment person. I didn't start a business to do that. He started a business and described his business. But the point is, it wasn't what he was spending all of his time, effort, and energy and mental capacity on. So when he unloaded that burden off of his shoulders and put it on mine, he said it was like the fog lifted, the vision cleared, the dreaming came back, the excitement. It got fun again to go out and run his business because he had put on the appropriate person the burden that he had been carrying himself. He was able to unshoulder that and put it on someone who is used to carrying it. That's what I want for my clients. That's who I want to serve and to help.
Interesting. Yeah, really fascinating. The other question I have for you is, how can people contact you and find you and follow you and learn more from you?
Yeah, so you can find me at openhandedwealth.com. I've got a couple free giveaways for your audience members. If they go to just openhandedwealth.com/freebies, that's FREEBIES. I've just got a handful of different free resources that I just have created and put out there for them regarding budgeting and cash flow, creating a vision and mission statement for their business, investing with purpose in a way that aligns with biblical values, and a couple other free resources there as well. But you can find me, Nick Makes Sense, on Instagram or YouTube, and some other sorts of profiles.
Yeah, excellent. And yeah, thanks so much for coming on, and a really interesting conversation.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Lou. It was a pleasure.